How you doing? This is the Fourth and Goal broadcast. Unfortunately, Troy could not make it today. Something came up, so we got David here with us. He's a Kansas City fan. How you doing, David?
I'm doing all right. You're going live with Picks with David.
He always does the picks in our group, NFL Renegades. If you're not in our group, he always does the picks, and he's pretty good at it. I enjoy it. I do appreciate you doing that.
The video is available on both our group page, plus it's also on YouTube. So
yeah,
that was new this year. I had the green screen and kind of like right now, and I appreciate you inviting me on.
Oh, no problem. I really appreciate that you're here. So what's your opinion on tonight? What do you expect to happen tonight in the Super Bowl?
Well, I've talked about it in our video, but basically I think that it's going to be a barn burner early. I think that both teams will feel each other out. They're, of course, going to, try to establish the running game to keep the other offense off the field, because both offenses are pretty darn good. Now, I give the Eagles the advantage defensively, when it comes to, holding the offense down, but you can't bet against Patrick Mahomes. I know that in his big games, he doesn't have the best record when it comes to his statistics and everything, but he's managed to eke out these victories. He's beaten Cincinnati, he's beaten Buffalo, he's taken down San Francisco. He lost, the main reasons that he's lost is he faced Tom Brady. Tom Brady ain't playing for the Eagles.
Exactly. Now, do you really think there's any chance? I mean, it's hard for me because I want the Eagles to win.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm pulling for the Eagles. I'm sorry, but, I'm not going with Mahomes. But it's still hard for me to picture, like, can they go in and dominate this game against the Kansas City? Or are they going to win by like a last-minute field goal? Because it's hard for me to pick on what type of game this is going to be.
Right. Yeah, I mean, everybody's talking about how, they think that the offensive line of the Eagles is so much more better than any other offensive line. The Eagles have not played a strong schedule. They played against a couple of pretty decent teams, and including the Detroit Lions. Detroit put 30 up on them. I know that was early in the season, but they're not the only team that's put up 30 on them. They've eked out a couple of close wins against really good teams. Well, Kansas City is a really good team. You've got Jalen Hurts right now with the injured shoulder. We don't know that he's at 100%. If they force them to throw the football, I think Kansas City is really going to perhaps dominate this game.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because I was just telling my friend yesterday that if they stop Hurts unable to run in the ball, I don't see a good outcome for the Eagles, because then I just don't see it, because Hurts, when they're dominant, Hurts is able to move out of the pocket. He's able to make those throws, make those plays,
Right. And so, yeah, I think one of their main focuses is going to be on him running. They're going to probably have a spy. I would expect it'll be Nick Bolton, the middle linebacker for the Chiefs. He's played excellent this year. And I don't think he gets the recognition that other middle linebackers do around the league. But I think that, him playing, if he does that spy position, then, they'll make it difficult for him. And you can bet that they're going to want to put some hits on him, especially if he goes to take off, because they don't know if that shoulder is 100% or not.
I think, the good thing is they got, about 2 weeks off, 10 days, something in there. He did look pretty good in the conference championship game. It didn't look like his shoulder was bothering him that much.
He didn't have to throw very often, too.
That is true.
I was really sad about that game, because I thought that I picked the 49ers and the Bills to go to the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. And I was downtrodden when Jimmy Garoppolo went down. And I was like, well, so much for that prediction. And then this Brock Purdy kid came in and he
I'm glad
starts
you.
playing lights out.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring it up. It's just this is what I wanted to say about the 49ers. Is it crazy to me, or is it crazy to you that it seems like year after year, a quarterback gets hurt and they just find another quarterback. And then this year it happens again. They go through two starting quarterbacks. And then here comes the last pick of the draft last year. You know, he's not even expected to ever see the NFL regular season, really. And he comes in there and he takes them to the conference finals. You know, it's just crazy because it's like most of the time when a team loses a starting quarterback, their season's over.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I don't know if it's Mike, I don't know if it's Shanahan's doing or what it is over there. They've always found a way to just piece that QB room up every year in, year out. You know.
I think that it's a combination of, first of all, they got a lot of weapons on the team.
Yeah.
And they probably had the best defense in the NFL. So as a complementary player, Purdy was able to come in. He's coming off of being a starter for 4 years in college. So he has a lot of experience of being a leader.
Yeah.
He played in the Big 12 at Iowa State. Big 12, this is Big 12 country down here in Kansas. So we've seen a lot of him, you know, and these scouts don't always know. You know, they don't always know what you've got, the kind of heart and leadership you have when you're, when you've been in that kind of situation. And so I think it was just right place, right time. And I think that going forward, I think they would be fools to just hand the job to Trey Lance without giving Purdy an opportunity to take the job.
Yeah. Now that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think Purdy should start?
Yeah, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, you look at the last 6 games of the regular season, the first game of the playoffs there that they played. I won't say that he had a great game against Dallas, but Dallas has an excellent defense. So, I mean, I think if they have an open competition, I could understand them wanting to give the job to Trey Lance. They gave up so many draft picks and draft collateral to bring him in, but you got to go with the guy that the team believes in. And I think right now they won't tell you this because early in the season, Lance played. I don't think the team has the kind of confidence in him that they do in Purdy. And I think if the team was given a vote, a silent vote, and nobody found out, Purdy'd be the starter right now going into next year.
That's what I was just going to say. I know I'm not a 49er fan, but from the video I've seen, the highlights and the games I see Trey Lance play, he don't really impress me much. Not saying he's a bad player. I just don't know if that system works for him. Maybe it don't.
Seems like a scrambling quarterback, which I think they wanted mobility. That's why they drafted the guy, because Garoppolo is a statue back there, and they're worried about him getting hurt because he can't get out of the way, even though they have a decent offensive line. But
exactly, and that's why, okay, I'm a Lions fan. A lot of people who know me know this. Also, what you call it? I was gonna say, a lot of people were talking about drafting a quarterback in the beginning of the year when we were 1-6, and that was like one reason why I didn't want to draft a quarterback, because these quarterbacks coming out today, a lot of these running quarterbacks, they're either good or they're not.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a huge risk. I guess in the game to win championships, you got to be able to take a risk. So I get that concept of it, but it's like, I don't know, it just gives me that nervous feeling because it's like, I don't know, the Alabama quarterback, Young. I mean, he looks like a great quarterback in college. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to ever take that from him, because he's a good quarterback. But being that small, that size, can he do it in the NFL? And then another thing why I don't like running QBs, even though I do love mobility quarterbacks, because it's nice when they get out of the pocket, they make the plays, they give you a chance. But look at Tua. All the concussions already. And it's like, are you trying to pay somebody big money at some point? And then this could be the end of the career right here. And now you're in trouble. You got no quarterback. You got no money. It just seems like everybody's trying to chase that Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And now it's getting crazy.
Yeah. I look at, the subjects that you're talking about right there. First of all, with Detroit, if you're going to draft a quarterback, it doesn't have to be a high pick. You have a quarterback. I mean, look at the kind of points you guys put up this year.
Exactly.
You had a top offense.
He was top 10 all year.
Yet for that particular team, it would be a draft and develop situation. You have time to prepare the next guy in line, and he's going to get some looks in the preseason. He'll get a chance, if they do like I think they're going to do, which is they're going to start, playing really well. They got to improve the defense. If they get some leads where they're comfortable to put the backup in to develop that guy, give him some live reps that's not in the preseason, then you start to understand what you got going forward in the future. But you don't need a quarterback right now. You need defense. As far as Tua is concerned, I always thought he was a fragile quarterback coming out anyway. I can't see them giving him the bag. I think that it's going to be, they gave him the weapons. They gave him the opportunity, and he showed that he could do the job. But if you can't stay healthy, the most important thing is availability. And if he's not available, you got to go in another direction.
Now, do you think Miami drafts a QB this year, or you think they might you think they might go get a Jimmy G or something?
My initial impression would be is they don't want to ruin their relationship with a quarterback who's been injured for them. They've talked about, they've talked him up. They've made him the focal point, this is Tua's team. And so they don't want to bring in somebody that is going to threaten / challenge for the job. I think it's Tua's job to lose. Now they could bring in a nice seasoned backup like they did with Bridgewater this year and say, hey, this guy's the backup. Everybody knows he's the backup, but in the back of their mind, hey, he could fill in if this happens again. I don't
totally forgot
use any draft capital this year, but if it doesn't work out this year, you can bet next year they will be looking in the draft.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason, I totally forgot they had Bridgewater, but Bridgewater got hurt too.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like, I don't know. Like, do you maybe move on from Bridgewater and go get a Jimmy G and just tell Tua like, hey, he's your backup. He's been to the big game. He's been there. He's here just to help you. Or do you think Jimmy G is going to try to pull like, hey, I want to start?
He's going to be a starter. I mean, there are places that are going to want him, depending on, and I know you wanted to talk about, Aaron Rodgers. I think that between the Jets and the Raiders, Jimmy G is, the next best thing in that lineup. And it might be, because of salary cap implications and the kind of trade, market that it would be, Jimmy G might be the favorite in both those locations. They could pay him a nice $25 to $30 million starting quarterback money. They don't have to trade nothing. He's a free agent. He worked it out to where he's not going to have the franchise tag or any kind of, stipulation to keep him in San Francisco when he took the pay cut at the beginning of the year to stay with the team.
You're so right on that. Now with Aaron Rodgers, where do you think he might end up at?
I don't think he's going to the Raiders. I think
You
that
don't
his
think so?
best chance is probably, I know he'd like to go to the Raiders. That'd be the best place for him because then he'd have Devontae. But, what he doesn't realize is that if he goes to the Jets, they got a ready-made defense. Man, they really came up this year. You got, both offensive and defensive rookies of the year on that team. Brees Hall will be back, probably not till mid-season, but they've got Michael Carter. They've got James Robinson. I forget the name of the dude. It starts with a Z. It's like Zalostra Knight ended up being their leading runner near the end of the year because Carter wasn't at 100%. Robinson basically did nothing because he just didn't know the system when they brought him over from Jacksonville. So maybe they'll do something else at the running back game, but they're going to have a running game. They've got the defense. I think that the Jets would be the smart move for him if they're going to. The owner of the Jets already said they'd give 2 first-round picks for him. So
I have to agree with you. I think that's Rodgers' best bet. But and don't get me wrong, I will say this right now, I'm not a Rodgers fan. Obviously I'm a Lions fan, so I had to deal with him majority of my life. And don't get me wrong, you can't take credit. You can't deny credit when it's due. He's a great quarterback. He's one of the best to play the game. Is he the best? No, but he's right there. It's hard to not put him underneath Tom Brady.
His commitment level right now is questionable. And I think it's one of the main reasons that people are going to be second guessing whether or not they want to make any trades or not. And of course, it's all up to him. He may decide to retire. I'm going to go sit in the dark while the Super Bowl is going on. Especially, and, not watch and be surrounded by nothing but darkness and no sound and some sensory deprivation will allow me to know whether or not I want to play the game. That's really silly to me, and everybody else has been making fun of it. It's typical Aaron Rodgers, but, I don't think he's going to end up with the Raiders because Jimmy G probably already knows the system, and because of, the coach there, and they may decide to stick with Stidham. Stidham played okay. They just didn't get the victories, because of their defense was weak.
Speaking of the dark retreat Rodgers is on, I have a live picture. You want to see his picture, how he looks right now?
Sure.
Let me see. Where's it at? What I do? Can you see my screen?
I can now.
You see it?
Nice glasses.
Because he said he was going to do DMT on Pat McGuffrey.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was pretty funny. I seen this meme and I'm like, hey, it's a live look at what Rodgers is doing in a dark room. Because you just no one right in the mind sits in the dark. I do agree with the statement about turning his phone off and escaping reality of life.
Yeah.
That does sound like perfect. I might even try that, but it's in total darkness.
That's funny.
That's crazy. So you think I think the best bet's to go to Jets, but here's my thing. With Rodgers, I feel like at this point in his career, he's so fascinated with trying to control every aspect of his career and the way the team goes. So that's almost why I see him ending up with Raiders, just because Adams is there. And I feel like the Raiders will honestly let him be him and how he likes to run things. Because, I read a report that Davis said that he was upset about fans not coming to the games, and there was more away fans at the Raider games this year. So I feel like he's already under fire for keeping Josh McDaniels.
You mean Arrowhead West?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So I feel like the Raiders, would actually be the best fit for his personality and the way he wants to be,
Yeah.
because he'll get away with that down there. I don't see the Jets. I don't see Robert Saleh, just catering, letting Rodgers do Rodgers and how he does things.
Well, and that's why I thought, that I think Jimmy G is going to be the front runner for both of those spots. And if there becomes a bidding war, I think the Jets got way more cap room than the Raiders do.
Yeah,
Especially after, signing Adams this last year. And they got to figure out a way to sign Josh Jacobs. I mean, I wouldn't want to go up in there with just Zamir White as the running back. They got to keep Josh Jacobs with the Raiders. If he gets loose and ends up somewhere, I'm pretty sure they're going to franchise tag him.
exactly. Now I almost wanted to say this. Do you see the Packers maybe even in the running for Jimmy G? Or do you think they're really gonna let out Jordan Love take the reins?
No, I think that with the investments that they have, I'm sure they would bring in a backup, veteran and go with Jordan Love as the starter if Rodgers is either traded or decides to retire. Because if he decides to retire or if he decides to, be traded, that's going to open up the cap space they need to improve the team wholeheartedly. They've got a lot of good new young players that just needed his commitment, his time to get them going. Christian Watson wasn't ready at the beginning of the year because they hadn't worked together enough. But the later the season went on, him and Rodgers got together and he started picking up touchdowns left and right.
Exactly. I mean, you're right on that. So you think Jordan Love is going to get the shot?
Yeah, I think he'll get the opportunity. I think that there will be way too many other suitors for Jimmy G's, services. Possibly Tennessee. Tampa's spot is open.
I was about to bring them up.
New Orleans doesn't trade for Derek Carr. Carolina, the Jets, the Raiders. I think that he is the top prospect when it comes to free agents at quarterback, to move around. That is a free agent. Now, there may be some teams that want to trade for Derek Carr. I've said from the very beginning, I thought Derek Carr was going to the Saints. I thought that it would have been smart if he'd have gone there when Sean Payton was there, because I thought he was going to be out last year. And, I think they let it go a little bit too long. He gave his heart and soul to the team and did all that he could. But, he has not played with a defense ranked higher than 27th his entire career there in Oakland/Las Vegas.
I totally agree. I think Derek Carr, I'm not going to sit there and say, he's on a elite level, but I think he can get there. I mean, I've seen him take the Raiders to the playoffs on his back because, like you said, his defense has never been over ranked 27. He's never had a really good defense. He's never had a full, complete offense either. And honestly, I hate to say this, if the Saints stay the same, they don't lose Kamara, they keep Thomas, they keep their defense and offense, and they get a quarterback that's going to get in there and not be throwing picks and, making bad plays like a Derek Carr, they're going to be competing for the South again. And I wouldn't doubt it if they don't win it.
Yeah, I mean, I think New Orleans wins that division if they sign Derek Carr. I guess they've already agreed to what the trade compensation would be. That's why they allowed him to talk to them. And so, it's up to both the team and the player. They've talked, they had 48 hours, depends on how they feel.
Yeah.
Is another team going to come in and say, hey, we'll agree to the trade compensation so that we can talk to him? That hasn't happened yet. Of course, I think basically that will happen after the Super Bowl. They don't want to take anything away from the championship game. And so nothing has really happened over the last 3 or 4 days and nothing will happen, today. You're looking at tomorrow will be the start of maybe a little bit of movement. We'll hear about whether or not any of these coordinators are going to get the head coaching jobs in, Indianapolis and Arizona is still open. I think that they're waiting on the Super Bowl to be over because they want to either interview / hire, some of these guys. I thought that on the coaching note there, I thought Brian Flores was going to get the job in Arizona. And but I'm glad he didn't, because I think he's going to be a real good defensive coordinator for the Vikings.
Exactly. Now, what do you think is going to happen with Tennessee?
I think they're on a downward spiral. I mean, they started out, where you got Mike Vrabel comes in there. He had a steady general manager. He had, brought in a lot of good coaches, and a lot of them have gone. The head coach of the Green Bay Packers was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee.
Yeah.
The head coach in Atlanta was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee. All of these good coaches that he brought in are, slowly leaving. Derrick Henry is not getting any younger, and they're wearing his tread down. This is the second year in a row that he's gotten injured during the season. And you've got, Ryan Tannehill was a steady quarterback. They kept him around because they didn't want to pay the big money for somebody else. I thought at one point in time that Tom Brady was going to end up there because Vrabel used to be his teammate, but he ended up going to Tampa instead. And so, I look at the team. I think they've got a real good defensive line. There are some good aspects to the team, but I think that they are going to face a lot stiffer competition. I think that, Jacksonville is obviously on the upcome here with Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. I think that the Colts just need the right coach and the right quarterback, and they're going to be dangerous. I thought they'd be dangerous this year, but I really feel like that the owner pulled the rug out from underneath the coach. And injuries were a problem, for that team this last year. Houston, it's going to take a while for them to come up. I think they've got a decent defense, but they don't necessarily have a franchise quarterback. They may get it in the draft here. I think that D'Amico Ryans was an excellent defensive coordinator for the 49ers, and I think he'll do a decent job as head coach. But who's running the offense there? You don't know who the offensive coordinator is. You don't know who your quarterback's going to be. But for Tennessee, I think that they had their opportunity the last couple of years. They knocked Brady out of the playoffs two or 3 years ago here when he was with the Patriots. They had the number 1 seed, and they let Cincinnati come in and take it away from them. And
exactly.
This year they didn't even make the playoffs, which I think was pretty sad because they started the season really well and they just faded down the stretch.
Yeah. I don't know. If you ask, honestly, it's weird, man. Like these are teams that I'm like really confused, and I'm kind of curious. I'm really actually kind of excited to see where their offseason goes. And that'd be Tennessee. I'm curious on what are they going to do, because I feel like Henry cannot keep doing what he's been doing the last years. It's showing now.
Yeah.
You need a quarterback that can throw the damn ball. Give Henry a break. Give your team a chance. Carolina's another team. I want to see how they're going to look this offseason. Tampa Bay's another team. I mean, like that whole Atlanta, that whole region down there is like a bunch of question marks.
Yep.
Because you don't know. I mean, other than Atlanta, I'll give credit for Atlanta because they were in the rebuild, about the same time Detroit started. And they came pretty strong. I mean, they kind of had a long shot. They had a chance for the playoffs by a long shot. I'm just kind of curious on their quarterback play. I know the rookie got the helm at the end of the season because what's his name quit on the team, Mariota. Which I was very surprised that he just quit like that on the team, because it's like you might as well kiss your career goodbye at this point, because I don't see any NFL team touching him. You know, we seen Antonio Brown quit, even though it was in different circumstances. One was respectful, and the other one was ignorant. Still, the point is, once you quit on a team like that, do you get another chance?
Yeah, I didn't hear that he quit on the team. I didn't know that.
I don't know
I
if it's
thought that they had just
100%.
made the switch because they wanted to get the rookie some action.
Going back to it, I remember reading an article, and it might not have been 100% true. So
Right.
don't really quote me, but I did read an article saying that, you know, something in practice happened and he basically went home after he got benched.
Right.
But you know, speaking of it, it could have been fake, because you know, you didn't hear ESPN or any of the big networks pick it up, and that's not unlike them to not pick that up. Unless Atlanta just kept it really close on wraps and it snuck through somehow, you know.
Yeah.
I don't see Tampa being good. I feel like a lot of people are going to be leaving out of Tampa.
Well, they've got quite a few people that are under contract, and I think that they may have their quarterback. They got Kyle Trask. He's been there. I would say he knows the system, but they fired Byron Leftwich, which amazed me. I don't know why they would fire him. There must have been a difference in philosophy there with him and the head coach as far as, how they wanted to play. But I feel like he was the scapegoat for why the offense didn't play well this year.
I think I'm not going to disclaim that. I mean, he could have easily been the scapegoat, 100%. But I kind of feel too, and this is how I felt, is even though people want to, talk trash about Tom Brady, I'm still going to keep it real. I want to keep it real and still say Tom Brady's the best player to play the game. Maybe not now, because right now he's officially retired. He did mail his letter in to the league.
Yep.
So that actually happened. I guess we'll see if he changes his mind or not. But to me you shouldn't have been that bad. I feel like a normal person with somewhat of IQ of calling plays could have a decent offense if you got Tom Brady as your quarterback. Not going to sit here and say you're going to be the best offense, because he don't make your whole offense. But I feel like you could have a consistent offense, not as bad as we've seen in Tampa this year. And I just feel like he had he just didn't know how to tweak his play calling. And I felt like he would do 3 good plays, and then the next 3 calls just completely backfire on him. So he could be the scapegoat. I mean, maybe Tom was really that bad this year. That is possible. Not going to say it ain't possible, but I believe that it was probably time for Leftwich to move on.
I felt like from the very beginning that the reason that they had so much trouble was all because of the offensive line in Tampa.
That too.
I think they're the poster child for why you got to have a good, solid offensive line. They had 2 or 3 guys went down due to injuries. And then they also had, a couple guys retired. And so when you go from having a sterling offensive line to you're playing basically retreads and backups, you're going to throw your timing off to your receivers. You're not going to be able to run the football. You're not going to be able to protect the quarterback. And I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I bet you Tom Brady was sacked more this year than he has since he was back with the Patriots. And I guarantee you, no matter what anybody says, they will concentrate on fixing that offensive line. Will be their number one priority this offseason. They should get, I think it's either the center or the right tackle back because, he tore an ACL in preseason.
Yeah.
Or an Achilles, one of the two. And, but if they work on the offensive line, like I said, they got Trask. Maybe they bring in a seasoned veteran, or maybe they decide that they need to draft somebody else. It's just a matter of time to see. But that's my take on Tampa having such a rough year.
Yeah. I was actually surprised. I thought since it was Tom's last year, I thought Tampa would have been. I thought Tampa would maybe at the beginning of the year. Like, I'm not gonna say because I know when he first went to Tampa, I did predict that. I did tell the NFL Renegades that Tom Brady was gonna win the Super Bowl the first year in Tampa. The second year, I thought he would have been better, and they really weren't. And then this year, I was like, I don't know, just because it's Tom Brady. I'm like, there's no way he goes out his last year like he did. I did not see that playing out how it did in Tampa. I thought they were actually going to be a way better team this season. And I thought we might have had a rematch between KC and the Buccaneers at the beginning stages of the season. Because after the first couple of weeks, it was pretty easy then to take notice that Tampa Bay is not as good as they once was, which blew my mind because you got Evans and then you got Godwin. I mean, and they didn't. I mean, Evans, I still think hit 1,000 yards receiving this year. Still kept the streak alive, but it was a pretty quiet 1,000 yards, if that makes sense. Like, he wasn't even that good at fantasy. And usually Evans is one of the best receivers to have in fantasy.
Right.
And I think I traded him. I think I pulled the robbery off in our league. I'm pretty sure I traded him for Joe Burrow in a trade. And it worked out. It worked out perfect for me because my team actually made the playoffs. And then and at that point, I think I was on the trend to not make the playoffs when I made that trade. And it worked out perfect because I was like, man, I'm giving up a big wide receiver in my league here. It's going to kind of screw my team up. And it really didn't hurt me by any means. I actually got 10 times better.
Right.
Because Evans was just quiet. Godwin was pretty quiet. I mean, and their run game was still, I thought the run game would have been a little bit better, but it wasn't that good. It got good at the end, though, it seemed like. It seemed like Fournette, by the end of the season, finally found his groove. But there was a lot of report that Fournette showed up to OTAs, like 50 pounds overweight or something like that. So I'm not 100% sure if maybe that's what took him so long to get his legs underneath him, because he had to work so hard to lose weight to get the season started.
Yeah, see, I seem to recall a little differently. I thought that he started hot, but then he faded down the stretch because, they needed to run the ball a lot early in the season, and they were winning games early on. And
you're right.
He just was getting pounded, so they started bringing in this rookie, Rashad White, and he played well, but they never stuck to the run because they would get behind and have to pass. And they didn't mix it up enough, and then Brady ended up throwing 50 times a game.
Yep. And he just wasn't, for some reason, No, you're definitely right. That's my mix up. Because I don't know, it just seemed like to me that Fournette wasn't Fournette. Because that dude's a beast. When that dude, he's a great runner. And I'm kind of curious if he's still going to be in Tampa Bay this year, or is he going to be a cut to save some money for them?
I think he was a free agent this last year because I remember him getting a visit with the Patriots. And, so they signed him in Tampa, and I'm pretty sure it was for longer than 1 year. So he should be under contract with Tampa for this upcoming season.
Speaking of that, hang on here. I'm actually gonna look that up. Let's look that up here.
I've been getting texts and messages through both Facebook and just regular messaging from friends. And the problem is that a lot of my friends are not Kansas City Chief fans. Everybody wants to root for the Eagles because the Patriots have the Chiefs have turned into the Patriots because they're there all the time and they have consistency of winning. Now they used to be a lovable team. And now you've got, because they're there all the time, people hate them because they're tired of seeing them,
Yeah.
That's one of those don't hate the player, hate the game. It's their time to go on a run and do something. They hadn't done anything in 50 years. And, which the Raider fans are sure to point out. They pointed out took you 50 years to win another Super Bowl. Well, it's been 31 years since you've been to one now. So, we like telling that back.
Yeah, it starts. I mean, look at New England all those years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody used to always talk shit about Tom Brady and the Patriots being in the Super Bowl.
20 years.
See.
And to do it in this time, with the free agency and the salary cap, to be able to do it, they had a really great plan in their front office. And you can't take anything away from Bill Belichick being one of the great coaches in history. I like to acquaint with Tom Brady that I don't believe he is the greatest player to ever play, but he's definitely the most decorated. And you can't ever take that away from him. I still hold a lot of other quarterbacks in higher regard based on, when they played. The rules are so much more in favor of the passing game now. You can't hit the receivers. You can barely touch the quarterback. You sneeze on Brady, it's a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah. It definitely is, that's for sure. I'm trying to see. They really don't give you an option here on their website to see how long somebody signs for it.
Right. I'd have just typed in Fournette Tampa Bay contract. I don't know where you went or.
I went to Google. That's probably what I'm willing to do. I just thought the site with their roster would
Leonard Fournette free agent contract 2022.
According to Spatrack.com, contract notes, $9 million guaranteed at signing, 2022 salary plus 2022 roster bonus plus $2 million of 2023 salary. Additional $2 million of 2023 salary fully guarantees March 19, 2023. 2022 roster bonus, $4.5 million, fully guaranteed, treated as signing bonus, 2022 to 2024 per game active bonus.
Yeah, he signed a 3-year contract.
Oh, wow. So they do got him for 3 years.
Guaranteed in 2022, 16 LTBE in 2023.
This thing will talk forever. Yeah, he signed a 3-year contract worth somewhere in the neighborhood of 9, 4.5, 7, 2, 2, 8, 15, 24. The 4-year contract for somewhere around $30 million. So he's with the team now. They've got there's roster bonuses built in at the start of the 23 and the 24 season. So if they wanted to cut him, they would not have to pay those roster bonuses. But he's He's inked up through the 2024 year. And so they don't have to worry about losing him if they don't want to.
Yeah, so they might be all right then.
Yeah.
Oh, so we've talked about the South, we've talked about Rodgers, we've talked about Jimmy G. So what do you think about Denver? How do you
Well,
think this year plays out versus this past year?
I think we're going to find out whether or not Russell Wilson's lost it or not, because he's going to have good coaching. That's for sure.
Yeah,
You know, I've always liked Sean Payton. You know, he's a Super Bowl winning coach. You can't take anything away from Sean Payton. He took a team that had never done anything. They're one of the worst franchises in football for years and years and years, and made them a consistent winner over the last 15.
yeah.
You know, and they won a Super Bowl title. You know, they were always in the thick of it. They'd always get knocked out by a team that basically would end up winning the Super Bowl. You know, you had the Rams ended up going, should have got that pass interference call.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's a hard one to bring up there because
You know,
I hate to say this, we all know the Saints won that game.
you
That call happens,
know.
it completely changed it.
You know, they lost to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay made it in, you know, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. You've got I'm trying to think of who else, you know, that they played over the years. Seattle, Atlanta, you know, those are all teams that ended up knocking them out, and those teams ended up going to the Super Bowl. And you know, so it wasn't like that they were, you know, losing to the lower, you know, base teams. I think that Sean Payton will get the offense straightened out. I think they've got a real good defense in Denver, but they just weren't getting any help from the offensive side of the ball. All year long, you hear on the radio shows and the, you know, the insider shows how there was in the locker room, there was stress between the offense and the defense because the defense was doing their job the best they can, and the offense wasn't putting any points up. I think it was like, what, 10 or 11 weeks into the year, they were only averaging like 13 points a game, which was the second worst in the last 40 years.
Yeah. Here's my thing. I don't want to call Russell Wilson on his character, but I just actually read an article saying that he actually had his own QB coaches that he hired, and they gave him his own office. I don't know if it's just me or is it. I mean, I get where he came from in Seattle, because I feel like Seattle could have made a couple better moves and got one or two more Super Bowls out the deal, you know, while he was out there. So I feel like I understood where he felt with that, with the organization. Like, we could be winning, but you're not doing what I need you to do to help me get us there. You know, you got your own vision. So I kind of see why he came from there, but now it's in Denver, and he's almost kind of like acting. I want to say he's almost acting like a little bit of Aaron Rodgers right now. He got his own coaches, and it seems like he's the one that wants to determine out what plays they play and how they play and the outcome, who comes and goes. I mean, I don't know what quarterbacks ever got their own damn office in the front office. But if you ask me, I don't care if it's Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Walter Moon, you know what I mean? It could be the Joe Montana. You shouldn't have your own damn office at the end of the day. Period. You should be with the rest of the team, being a leader, being in the same room with your teammates. So, you know, you're ready on game plan, not sitting there like, oh, you guys can sit in the locker room. I'm going to go sit in my office with my mini fridge and my TV. You know, I just think that's a little ridiculous. And I'm kind of hoping Sean Payton walks in there and takes the desk, you know, takes that office away and tells
They already said he
get
was
out of
doing
there.
it.
Yeah. I did hear the comment. Somebody asked Peyton about the coaches, and he was like, I don't care. They're not making no decisions. So,
yeah, because I mean, he's not the first player to have his own, you know, like, you know, trainer and you know, outside coaches and things like that. You know, Brady had some of those, and it rubbed Belichick the wrong way. I think the dude's name was Alex Wright or something. He had his own personal guru or whatever. And when it come to keeping him healthy and things, Russell Wilson had like he had his own shrink or something at one point, but the dude passed away last year. And it was a guy that was like always helping him to stay in a positive attitude and to project that towards his teammates and the fans and everybody, to be a positive person all the time. And I still saw that positivity despite losing his friend and mentor or whatever. But yeah, I don't think that the coach's office, having his own office, is a good thing, because it makes him look like he's above the rest of the other players. And he needs to get right in there in the trenches and make sure that he's one of the boys. He can't be, a non-committed teammate, type of person where, the other teammates feel like he's not with them. He's on his own level, and he's not going to be in there with us when we need him, type of guy.
Exactly. I think he still has it. I just think he needs to get back to, I just think he needs to honestly get back to, where he was in Seattle. Go out there and just play loose. I think Hackett did. He obviously, there was a lot
Hackett
of reports.
was a hack.
Yeah, there was a lot of reports that he didn't want Russell Wilson running the ball and doing any of that. And I feel like you're kind of taking his game away if that's the case, because Russell Wilson's he was amazing to watch in the pocket in Seattle.
Yeah.
He'd make two linebackers miss and throw a 50-yard pass.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and then watching him in Denver, it's like, what the hell is this? I feel like,
listen, it was just a mismatched combination of coach and quarterback. I think everybody knows that the reason that Hackett got the job in Denver is because they thought they were going to get Aaron Rodgers. And when that didn't happen, they had to switch to the backup plan and go with Russell Wilson.
yeah,
And I think something similar is happening with the offensive coordinator position in New York with the Jets. They brought him in. Woody Johnson already said, hey, I'm going to, I'll give 2 first-round draft picks, send Aaron Rodgers this way. He just got to decide whether he wants to play for the Packers or if he wants to retire or if he wants to play elsewhere. If he tells him, he says, hey, I'm ready to play elsewhere, I think they'll have a deal done in no time with the Jets. I don't believe he's going to go to the Raiders. When it comes to Denver, again, you're looking at Russell Wilson. If he gets his head on straight, when he played his best is when they have a strong running game. Now, they lost, Williams early in the year at running back, and it was a rotation of players that they brought in off the street or traded for who were lower tier guys. I think they had Latavius Murray was on the street. Marlon Mack was the third string, running back somewhere, I think in Houston.
yeah.
They just kept bringing different guys in, trying to do something, to energize the running game. But I think they don't have a very good offensive line, So maybe the offensive line needs some help. They'll get Sean Payton's offensive system in there. The defense, if they can hold serve, I think they'll have a much better season. But you got to remember, they're playing in what everybody considered to be the toughest division in football before this season began.
I'm going to make a crazy prediction, and hold me true. Next year when we're doing the broadcast, call me out if I'm completely wrong when I say this. But I think Denver, personally, is going to be the one team next year to give the Chiefs a run for the money. And the only why I say this is because think about this. Peyton leaves New Orleans, goes up to Denver. A lot of players leaving on defense and offense. And if the Saints ain't going to bring them back, where do they go?
Yeah.
Good chance. They're going right from there right to Denver.
Yeah.
And now you got guys who know Sean Payton, know the system, and then you're blending them in. with the new team, the new players, and it makes it easier, especially if they can come as a team and combine as a team, and it just makes it the transition real easy. And they could be a dominant team to give the Chiefs run for the money. Do I think I'm not gonna sit there and say they take the division or anything by that means,
Right.
but out of your division, I see them could be the number 2 team, if not the number 1. Because I mean, we would have to see how the battle goes, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been on the cusp of doing something really good there, and they just haven't put all the pieces together.
Yeah.
And it's probably coaching, Now I think I believe in Russell Wilson. Okay.
I don't
think
think
he
he's
can be a
washed
good
up.
player. I think that team just needed the right direction. I think that the coach was a mistake. I think that with Peyton in there, you're going to see a much improved team. I think they've got a chance to make the playoffs. But again, they're going to have to battle. The Chargers are no slack. They are a good team. They're on the come up. I know they blew the big lead against Jacksonville, but I think that is a learning experience for that coaching staff. I think it's a learning experience for Herbert and for that defense. They made the playoffs. It was their first playoff game. They've got some experience now. They know what they're going to be, dealing with when it comes to Kansas City. They always play the Chiefs tough.
Oh, yeah.
I think that no matter what the Raiders do, I think they're going to concentrate on their defense in the offseason with, draft picks, free agency. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they either go with Stidham or Jimmy G's the first free agent that they sign at the team. I think if Jimmy G comes in, that stabilizes the offense, and it'll be all about the defense this offseason. Then you're looking at those 3 teams, once again, trying to topple the king of the division in Kansas City. And there's nothing to say that Kansas City, depending on how this game goes today, are they going to lose some pieces, that are, more valuable than just Tyreek Hill was. I think they did an adequate job replacing Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to lose Mecole Hardman in the offseason, and that's why they traded for, Kadarius Toney. I think there's a chance that they do keep Clyde Edwards-Helaire, although, he's been injured a lot. He's going to want to get paid. Pacheco is basically the future starter. He has been here at the end of the season. They're going to keep McKinnon, but they realize, just as all teams do, the running back is not the most important position on the field anymore. It used to be back in the day. The bag is in, Patrick Mahomes' hands. And because they paid him, a few years ago, this big contract, now they're getting a deal. Look at Rodgers. He's getting $50 million, and I think that Mahomes is only getting like 42.
Yeah, but I mean, 42, but I mean, over the years of that contract, it's pretty nasty. I mean, not on the cap every year. I'm actually pretty impressed on how they actually read his contract. But just to have the guy that long, this is how I look at it, especially when most of it's all guaranteed. This is how I look at it. Like, what happens? I'm going to knock on wood because I never wish for a player to get hurt. But what happens if Mahomes seriously gets hurt? And it's so bad he can never play the game. Now you owe this guy all this money, and you're screwed. That's why and that's not just Mahomes. That's where all these contracts are going these days. And it's not a good outlook.
If they knew that he was done, if he was seriously done, you have to remember that they're probably going to draft a quarterback. They bring in a seasoned veteran to be the starter. If it were to happen like right now, and we knew he was done, I could see them, getting Garoppolo. He'd want to go there because of how good the team is and the kind of coaching he'd have.
Yeah.
And then they would draft a quarterback, and he would be under a rookie contract for the duration of Mahomes' deal.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So they would
what I'm
be able,
saying
they would
is-
be able to survive because they've got such good players.
Yeah, but the problem is say so he signed this deal, I want to say about a year and a half ago, maybe two.
It's a couple of years ago, yeah.
So he still got about 8 years. So say if it happened, say if it happens, he got 8 years left in the deal. You're not gonna be able to keep. Here's the problem where it kills him. It might not kill him starting next year, but getting a couple years into it, when all those players on defense and offense, rest of offense become free agents and they want a pay raise, that's where it's gonna hurt KC. Because you would still have the dead cat file.
Salary cap goes up every year, going up
That's true.
16 million this year.
I know it's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Well, it's
that helps alleviate a lot of burden on some of these teams, that are right up against the cap. The Chiefs actually were not right up against the cap, amazingly enough. They made enough moves.
I'm going to explain it the best way I can. You guys got like a perfect scenario going, and I'm not. And mind you already know my opinion about the Chiefs. Like, they're a great team. I'm not going to take that away from them, but you already know I'm not a huge supporter of them. 'Cause I don't know. I'm just not ready to have to deal with another quarterback. You know what I mean? Now I believe the hype's going to get even more gradually go up now since Brady's walked away from the game with Mahomes. So I guess it's just a new era and you just gotta, take it how it comes. But
Right.
you guys got like a perfect scenario like the Red Wings had in the 90s and the 2000s. Like when we were winning all of our cups in hockey, we had players taking less money. We had players giving up money to sign this guy, to bring this guy in. And it was just a well-built team, and they just wanted to win. And they forked out a lot of money to do so. And I feel like that's what Kansas City got right now. Because for the part. I feel like the players they have, they're willing to take less money. And the only why they're willing to do that is because of the coaches, because of how good the team is. And they know they got a legit chance at a championship almost every year right now. So,
Right.
and that's a good spot as a team aspect to be in. And even as a fan wise, it's kind of relaxing going in off season because majority of your players are going to stay and work. You know what I mean? So, like me as a Lions fan, like we had our best year with Campbell this year, and I'm not worried about our players necessarily leaving to go other places because I see majority of our players staying with us because they want to fulfill this and take it up. But it's like the coaching staff. You know what I mean? Like Ben Johnson has a great year offensive coordinator, and teams are trying to snag him. Then they're going after defensive coordinator, and it's like, whoa. Wait a minute, lay off. Like,
right.
It's nerve-wracking because every day
give us a chance to at least win before you steal everybody.
Exactly. Right? Like turning on the radio and you hear, oh, well, Aaron Glenn got to interview with the Colts, the second interview, and then you're like, fuck. He got two. that means his first one went good. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna be happy if the guy gets a coaching job, but at the same time, I might be a little selfish, but I didn't want you to do good in the interview.
Yeah.
And it's like you're being selfish, but it's like, no, man, we still got more work to do. It's not time to break up the coaching staff yet.
Right.
We only lost one coach, which I was kind of upset about, and it was that running back coach with the Carolina. Drew Staley. I was kind of hoping. I felt like he was the coach to be able to put his foot in Swiss ass and get in his head and get him playing better and making smarter decisions instead of trying to be the fancy back every time he touched the ball.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, Swift is a fancy runner and he got great moves. But it's
Williams
like
is your guy, though. I'm telling you, Williams is your man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I want Jamal at 1 and Swift 2. Not that I don't think Swift's better than Williams, because I honestly do think Swift is better. A better runner, because he's faster and he's more, athletic in that aspect. But my problem is he's proven that he can't take the load Williams can. Williams is that guy that's going to get in the tackles and he's going to open monster holes for Swift.
Yeah.
Because
Williams
he's
is
going
your
to pound the
third down
ball.
back or your 3 down back, whereas Swift, I look at Swift as like a receiver out of the backfield.
That's what I'm saying.
He
I
makes
like
better
him
plays
as-
doing that.
That's what I like Swift as.
Yeah.
I
He's
like
like
Swift
your
as
guys
a
is
grouper.
McKinnon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that allows him to stay healthy, make him through the year. I think it even makes it better on him because the defense are not keen on him as much. I mean, they're trying to key on him, but it's hard when you got Williams coming up the middle for 10 yards, running you over. You know what I
Right.
mean? And then it works with our passing game. And I believe this year our passing game is going to even take another step when you got Williams 100% healthy. Even though I was kind of a little disappointed that, we didn't get Williams a couple big more plays for the season ended. But, he had his chance at Green Bay, and fortunately he dropped the ball. But, he definitely showed what he can do. And now I'm excited for him and Goff to get the workout in the off season and hit OTAs. And I'm really excited to see what number 9 looks like this year in the regular season from week 1, not no week 15 or 13, whatever his first week was. It's just huge. I think our team is looking pretty good right now. Now I got a question for you, because if you want, this would be probably a perfect time to explain to the audience how your fan base, what your teams are at. Because I was going to bring the Minnesota in, but I expected we should probably do that story first.
It's no problem. Okay, so growing up as a kid, we didn't have DirecTV yet. There wasn't the ability to pick which games you wanted to see. And so the CBS game was always Kansas City Chiefs because I live here in Kansas. And the other game, or whatever, I mean, and it was even before that because, CBS had the NFC package and then, the AFC package was on NBC. And so we used to watch the Dallas Cowboys was always on TV and the Kansas City Chiefs were always on TV. So in this region, we root for both those teams because that's who you get to see on TV. Well, so I've always been a Kansas City Chief fan, and then we were Dallas Cowboy fans in the NFC. But I got upset when Jerry Jones fired Jimmy Johnson. And so during that time, I was looking for a new NFC team to root for, even though I knew I wasn't going to see them on TV all the time. And it was like 1995 when I caught a playoff game between the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants. The Giants had a big lead, and the Vikings were led by Randall Cunningham, who came back and they beat them. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to root for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, they lost the next week to the 49ers, which was fine. But I liked the color purple. And I decided that I was going to pick them as my team. I was a kid, and I wanted to have an NFC team that wasn't the Cowboys. And so that's how I became a Minnesota Viking fan. And, a couple of years later, they drafted Randy Moss, and the team got real close to winning the Super Bowl, and, I've been through some heartbreaks, but for rooting for that team. But my NFC team, and they can give me a hard time because I root for two different teams, is the Vikings, and in the AFC, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. And so, I know you want to talk about the Vikings, and I was just looking on my phone here a minute ago that there is word that maybe they're looking to move on from Dalvin Cook, which surprised me, because I think that he has been, one of the stabilizing forces of the team, is their ability to run the football from time to time. But I can understand it because I made some bets, and this will get us into our betting, talk a little bit. During the end of the year, for him to score touchdowns, he just couldn't get it in the end zone. I had a big bet that I had made during Thanksgiving where I had who was winning each of the 3 games. 2 guys were going to score from each team throughout, that day. One of the guys from Buffalo, one of the guys from, Detroit, and one of the guys from Dallas, and one of the guys from, I think it was the Giants, and then it was the Patriots and the Vikings. And all Dalvin Cook had to do was score a touchdown, and I'd have won a huge amount of money because I had everybody else, had scored that I needed to score, and they're on the goal line 3 different drives and couldn't punch it in with Dalvin Cook. And so, I think they've lost their, confidence in him and his ability. You could blame it on the offensive line if you want, but he's been there for about 4 or 5 years. He's starting maybe to get wore down, and maybe they like their backups better at this point.
I vaguely just seen a post about that not too long ago, but I wasn't 100% sure. If that was the case, because I didn't get around to read it, but I'm glad you brought it up. I think the Vikings would be very stupid, and I mean stupid, if they get rid of Dalvin Cook. And the only why I say this is because and this is NFC North now. Now you're talking my language. I hate Minnesota. I hate Green Bay. I hate Chicago. I expect Green Bay just because, they have dominated the North for so long now. Chicago, I'm not going to respect Chicago until I see them actually build a real team. And I mind you, because doing all these trash talk groups and all these groups, it got me into where we're at today. It made me fall in love with doing this stuff. I've listened to beer fans, Chicago. And every year it's the same thing. Either their quarterback is not that good. They don't have a legit wide receiver core. And their running game is either hit or miss. It's either good or it's nothing. But their defense, year after year, time after time, is always a top 10 defense. I call Chicago Bears the smartest team to build defense. If you could build a defense and then build another defense for your offense and somehow find a way to win games, they would probably be in the Super Bowl 3 out of 5 years. Because they're good at building defense, but they can never build offense. But back to Minnesota I feel like Minnesota outside of Green Bay. Well, I didn't feel like that about Green Bay. I knew Green Bay's season was going to be pretty rocky this season. But normally, I expect the Packers to be in the playoffs, go out the gate. But the Vikings don't have a bad team. Their offense is great. Their wide receiver core is great. Their defense can be improved, but I just think that was coaching. I don't really necessarily think it was the players. The only thing I see weak on that roster is quarterback. Kirk Cousins.
Everybody points to Kirk Cousins. Yeah.
And I don't want to be mean to Kirk Cousins. I really don't. I'm not trying to bash the guy.
Right.
It's just something about him. It's either he comes in and he plays lights out and he plays a great game and you win, or he comes in, he's rocky, and you got to get bailed out by a field goal win. Which, no offense, Minnesota had quite a few of those this season. They had really close games. Or Kirk Cousins is just playing bad. I mean, everybody called me crazy. For instance, I was at my best friend's house when the Lions played week 3 in Minnesota. And that game, I believe, 100% sure won. Cable made a bad call. Happens. Also, I think it had a lot to do with our safety getting hurt. Our number 1 safety went down for the season. That's when Kirby Joseph entered the game in the second half as a rookie, first game, and he did not have a good game. They were able to come back and beat us, and we deserved to lose at that point. We made the bad coaching decision. Our defense gave up the 1 touchdowns. There's no excuse but us. But everybody still called me crazy when I said at the end of that game, I said, we're still better than Minnesota.
Yeah.
And then we go 1-6. Everybody's like, everybody's still giving me shit because I said we're better than Minnesota. And then boom, we finally get everything clicking. We're winning, we're on this win streak, and we're playing the football we know we can play now. And on the level we know now. And we come up to Minnesota and we don't only beat you, but we beat you convincingly.
Yeah.
And I look back at my best friend and I was like, tell me I'm wrong now.
Yeah, told you. Yeah.
And he looked right at me and he goes, dude, if they were on the same page as they are right now, back then, he goes, this would be a different ballgame. He goes, I feel like I'm jinxing myself. I feel like I'm jinxing my team when I say this, but how don't you expect the Lions to win the North next year?
Yeah. I mean, well, you're so used to bad things happening, you expect it. It is waiting for the other shoe to drop syndrome. You get hyped up. You ever see one of those circles is like, you believe you're going to make the playoffs. You start to dream, something bad happens, and now we're in the off season, and that's what you're in the middle of the circle.
And I've had that for a long time, the Lions fans. I remember the year with Kitna. We started 6-0.
Yeah.
Kitna looked like the savior. That was the year he almost sent the Bengals to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And when I think it was the Super Bowl. It was either divisional or conference round when Palmer got his ACL torn by Pittsburgh. When the Bengals had Ocho Cinco.
It was before that.
Okay, it was right there.
Yeah, because Carson was the starter the year that he got hurt, and Kitna had to come in and hadn't had any reps, and they ended up getting beat.
Yeah, but John Kitna that year came in that game.
Yeah,
he was the backup.
Yeah,
and he almost pulled that game out at the end. He had a chance. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Like you said, he had no game reps. Middle of a playoff game, you don't expect your quarterback to get hurt like that. I mean, you got to be ready, but at the same time, no one expected that to happen.
You can't prepare for everything.
And then Detroit got him. And I was like really excited because I was like, he played pretty good, coming off the bench. I wonder what he could do. And I remember that year we started 6-0. I was young too. I was talking smack.
Yeah.
My dad's like, calm down. I've been a Lions fan for 35, 40 years. And I've seen this stuff before. Just relax yourself. And man, we hit 6-0, and then went 6-1, 6-2, 6-3, 6-4.
Ouch.
It just crumbled. We didn't even make the playoffs. And I was just at the end of the season, I remember I was so disappointed. I was just like, are you kidding me? And then unfortunately, you know what happened the following year? 0-16. Here we go.
Yeah.
And then dealing with Stafford so many years. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate the guy. I was actually, a lot of people got on me because I stuck up with Stafford until the day
he didn't do anything wrong. He played well. It was an organizational failure. The organization has taken a turn. Okay. They brought in Spielman to help with things. I think they hired the right general manager. I think that in the beginning, people didn't think it was going to work out for him, but with the draft picks you got for Stafford, the Rams gave Goff away like he wasn't worth anything.
Yeah.
We just wanted you to take him and get rid of him, and that has seasoned him. He's a pro now. You guys are doing just fine on offense. I think that you got the right coach for the right team. And I think things are really looking up for you guys. I do not expect you to take a step back this next year, because I'm not expecting anything out of Chicago.
No, I'm not.
Minnesota's got a real salary cap issue because, they're paying a lot of money to Cook, to Cousins, Harrison Smith, and so they've had to make some changes, and maybe this Dalvin Cook situation could be a salary cap move. Maybe they're looking to get some draft capital. I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. You'll just have to wait and see. I don't think it will. I think this is just one of those, we need to create storylines for the off season. Let's see what happens. We'll throw some stuff at the wall and see what sticks. But,
Exactly.
Cousins is always to blame in Minnesota. And, I think about, that people were thrilled to death when they got him. Okay. But because either from coaching or the parts around him are not living up to, what they were supposed to, do, Justin Jefferson did not have a big game against the Giants in the playoffs. He disappeared. Okay. Dalvin Cook did not, play well when it come to running the football, and Adam Thielen, who's been strong and steady for him for the last several years, I feel like he's kind of disappeared the last couple of seasons too. I think that he should really be in a more of a third receiver position. I think KJ Osborne is better than him at this point. I like that we were able to get your tight end. I think that was a steal. And it worked out for you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are going to get draft picks, and both your young tight ends played really good the later end of the year.
I think we played great. Actually, it's kind of funny that you bring up the TJ, because a lot of Lions fans, I remember that day. I didn't believe it. I'll be the first one to tell you. I remember at work, I told my dad, and my dad went off. He was pissed.
Yeah.
And what are we doing? What we thinking? And everybody on
in division, I understand,
was just livid. And I was like, dude, why are you guys so pissed? I mean, and I hate to say this, I'm not trying to talk shit about TJ, but I think he was the cancer. Something tells me he was the cancer, because we traded him, and at that point, our season looked like it was over. Like, here we are, going to trade people for draft capital and start this all over again. Next thing you know, boom, we win. We win again. We win again. And then we finished the season 9-8. And our tight end play, it was 10 times better for us than when TJ was here. We had 3 rookie tight ends come in and play phenomenal. I mean, they caught more touchdowns than I think, between the 3 of them, than I think TJ's had in one season for us.
Well, and it just wasn't receiving. I think one of the main things that the reason why they traded him away is because these younger guys were willing to block also. Okay.
Yes.
That helped your running game. These guys would block. TJ's just looking to catch passes. He's a receiving tight end, kind of in the mold that like Kelsey. Kelsey doesn't do any blocking for the most part. Now, if he gets downfield, he'll get in somebody's way, and shove them around. But he's not going to be on the end of the line. He's always in, I'm going to go out for a pass kind of situation.
Yeah. Well,
and I think that is one of the
blocking.
reasons why they made the change.
I mean, we did use him as blocking, though. He did block, but I noticed towards the end of the season, before the trade happened, you started seeing Brock Wright a lot more blocking, because it seemed like every time we had TJ blocked, it was a damn hole.
Yeah. And
to me, and then even after he left, I'm not going to sit there and say he had a crap year for you guys, because I think he had a pretty decent year for the amount of games he played with you guys. But I still wasn't that impressed. I think he had one true big game for you guys. And I think that was in the playoffs. I want to say it was the wild card, maybe the wild card game, or right before the wild card.
Do what now?
I think the wild card. I think that was probably his best game for you guys.
Yeah.
That's when he actually looked like, oh, okay. Like, that's when it made me realize, like, okay, he's decent tight end. I'm not saying he can't be good. And just, to me, I'm interested to see what Minnesota does, because maybe that's why you bring that up, makes me think why they might be getting rid of Cook now. Because I think they want to keep TJ for a tight end. And TJ wants George Kittle money. And I got your message, by the way. So, I don't know. TJ wants Josh Kittle money. So is he even gonna be with the Vikings next year?
I think he's still under contract for another season.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
I think that they, it wasn't just a single season. If it's not, they're definitely going to want to sign. I don't think they'd give up, the picks that they had for just the 1 year. I think he's still got another year.
I think he does too. Now, speaking of it, I truly do think he does.
And then, for them, they need a lot of help in a lot of spots. They didn't play their best game against the Giants. I'd like to see a little bit more linebacker help. I think that they deserve to have more rotational players in the defensive front. And then, continue to bolster the offense with, better offensive linemen if they can acquire any, But
Yeah.
I wouldn't change any of the skill positions. They just need to perform better. I like Kirk Cousins. I'm not going to bash him like everybody else does. Everybody makes mistakes. When you're under pressure and you have, the weight of the whole team is on you. I mean, who are we going to get that's going to be better right now? Who could we sign that's going to be better than Kirk Cousins? The kind of completion percentage, the touchdowns he throws, the yardage, who's out there that is available? We can't draft one because we don't have a pick that's that high. And there's not anybody that's just, hanging around that, isn't going to be wanted by another team that we'd be able to afford.
Yeah. I would say probably your best bet, maybe a tad bit better, is somehow you pull a trade for Jimmy G. But they're going to want something pretty good in return for that. And then Jimmy G is going to want money. And then that could cause a lot of drama with Kirk Cousins still there. So yeah, I think if anything, if I'm Minnesota, I'd probably use a draft pick and get a QB.
Well, it's going to be up to them to develop him. He's not going to be a person that's going to be ready to come right in.
That's what I'm saying. You get somebody
they're going to need to find somebody they can develop. And it's not just, no matter which team you are, you have to not only be able to coach up the players that you have that are going to be playing, but the ones that are going to be sitting have to be developed in the off season, the preseason, during the season, so that when it's time to call upon them, they can come in and do the job.
Exactly.
And
so you got about 10 minutes before you got to get off.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about the coaching carousel briefly. I seen a story here on ESPN that says that the offensive coordinator, Steichen, might be the front runner for the Colts. And so I'm sure we'll hear something about that as early as tomorrow, no matter what happens.
As long as that last name's not Glenn.
Steichen?
No, as long as it's not Glenn, I'm cool. I don't care who they are.
Yeah, no, it's the offensive coordinator for the Eagles.
I can see that. And that's not a bad way to go for, I don't think. I mean, he's coached one hell of a year over there for them boys. So we talked about the Super Bowl. You real quick, you want to go over the bets and odds?
I've got that here, I think, if it'll pull it back up. They have the odds right now. Yeah, it's got to reload it. I was off too long. I'm making my bets this weekend through FanDuel. When the season began, Kansas just legalized sports gambling, and me and my friends went from one app to another, gathering up all the extra bonus money that they would give us for free, free bets. And so we did DraftKings, we did FanDuel, we did Caesars Sportsbook, we did BetMGM, and then the final one that we could do here in Kansas was Barstool. And so they still have the Eagles as the favorite by 1.5 points. I took the Kansas City Chiefs. Are you placing any bets on this game?
I'm really not decided yet, and I touched about this earlier. It's just hard for me to pick, to really feel confident who's going to win this game, because I feel like there's too much things that could happen that could cause me to lose the bet. And
Right.
I'm the type of person that I don't like making bets if I'm not 100% confident.
That's why
Yeah,
it's
I'm
called gambling, Chris.
Exactly. I just always been like that. I don't like losing money on stuff, so I might make a couple bets. I do like the bets how they can predict on. Like I almost bet the other week, again, the Bengals game and Chiefs game, if they both had to throw like 2 touchdowns, and the payout was like $90, $100. I might go to look through the list and see what they're offering today. And I might make some small bets, a couple dollar bets. Maybe I can hit a big parlay or something,
Generally, all of my bets are about $5 a piece. When I was able to bet more, it was because I got the free bonus bets. Like in FanDuel, they had or it was DraftKings. Because I had referred a friend, we got $200 in free bets. And
Yeah.
so, I had these $25 bets that I could put on stuff. And, I did real well doing that. In fact, I'm up this season. I would say I gambled $60 a weekend throughout the year, and I'm up about $2,000 for the season. And so I had some weeks that I did lose, but I had some big wins on some parlays that really, allowed me to play and have fun throughout the year without it costing me anything because I was so far ahead already.
Exactly.
So I want to tell everybody real quick that might be watching, they have a bet that I think is a sure thing on FanDuel. It's, will the opening kickoff be a touchback? And so it's a minus 142. A $5 bet will, make you $3.52. You get your $5 back, and it's $8.52. If you want to bet more, you'll get more. But it should be a touchback. Both of these kickers have strong legs. They generally kick it into the end zone. And,
exactly.
I think that's a real good bet there to have early on.
Exactly. I think I might actually even go on FanDuel myself and take that bet.
Yeah.
I like those little bets. I'm going to get into it more next season, just because now I got the broadcast starting out. You know what I mean? And we're just starting out, so we're building this up as we go. I'm not expecting a lot of views today. I'm not expecting, was built up every week, but it'd be nice, go, especially when the season starts and we got this going.
Sure.
Well,
I'll say that on FanDuel, they generally have about once a month, they'll throw you what they call a boost.
Yeah.
That is like a sure thing bet, because they're trying to duke you in. They want you to make a deposit so that you can start, playing and everything. This is one of those, everybody knows you're probably going to win this one. They had one earlier in the year. Of course, there was a maximum amount of money you could bet was, like $25. And that was the Kansas City Chiefs are going to score a touchdown in the game, Yeah. They haven't not scored a touchdown in so long, and it was going to be worth something. They had one where will Patrick Mahomes, and they'll tailor it to your area, whatever state you're in. Patrick Mahomes is going to complete at least one pass in the game. Maximum amount of bet, $25. So you can get your basically it's plus 100. So they're matching your money. Whatever you put in, you get back.
Yeah.
And but looking here, I've got just to go through the ones that I am betting on. I have Travis Kelce, scoring a touchdown in the game for $5. And I have Patrick Mahomes as the MVP would win $6.50 on a $5 bet. That's the payout's 1150. That's plus 130. I also am betting on Kelsey to possibly win the MVP, which would probably require Mahomes to, make a mistake, maybe a fumble, an interception. I think both teams are going to turn the ball over because they're just such good teams. And so it's plus 1,600 on Kelsey. A $5 bet would pay out 85. I have the Chiefs winning the game doesn't pay out a whole lot, but because it's at plus 112 right now, that's $11.20 on a $10 bet. And then here are the parlays. I have and this is one of those that they already have. They have some that are already pre-set up, and they say that a lot of people are betting on this particular bet. They got the Kansas City Chiefs on the money line, Travis Kelce, Jerick McKinnon, and AJ Brown all scoring in the game, anytime touchdown. That's a plus 22.18. So a $10 bet pays out $231. And so I've got that one. Let's see. The first touchdown scorer, I actually have Kadarius Toney. I think that it's going to be a jet sweep or could be a long pass because he's got speed. He just hasn't broken out. They've been using him in a lot of short routes lately. Could be a surprise over the top play early. That's plus 1,200. It would pay 65 on a $5 bet. I also have Patrick Mahomes showing off that he can actually score and run, and him on a first touchdown also. $5 on a plus 2,400. That'd win 125. And then I just for fun I placed a $5 bet on both teams scoring every quarter, which is plus 750. That would be worth 42.50. So there's all the bets that I'm in on this game. On FanDuel. On the other one, I think it is BetMGM. I have whether it's heads or tails, and I have there will be no kickoff returns or punt returns for touchdowns. Both of those bets are available on BetMGM.
Exactly. Now I want to say, going in the season, we should definitely do segments of going through bets and every week.
I'd love to.
And even fantasy football talk. That would be pretty sweet when fantasy season kicks off. Because I know
I'm on your fantasy league.
I love it. I want to start a money league this year.
Right.
Make it a little bit more interesting. Still keep the group one for fun because I think the group one we had was pretty fun. Even though this year I don't know if it was just me or did you notice it was pretty weird for fantasy this year. I don't know, for some reason it just seemed harder than usual.
Injuries were a big problem this year.
Yeah.
I did not have Jonathan Taylor because I didn't have the number one pick in any draft, but he ended up getting injured. I have a dynasty league on the Sleeper app where he was in there, and man, he just did not perform this year. When he was healthy, he was, didn't score a lot. And then there were weeks at a time that he was out due to, I think it was either a high ankle sprain or he had, torn something minor, but they had to have weeks and weeks that he just couldn't play. Of course, anybody that had Dak Prescott early missed out on a few weeks of the season.
Yeah. He had an all right year. My buddy had him in our league, and he did all right, but he still didn't do what normal he could put up as a quarterback. Yeah. It seemed like the quarterback play this year was pretty crazy one. You didn't have Patrick Mahomes. It just seemed like it was nothing guaranteed in your matchups. Because I lost a few matchups that I should have won, and it all came down to QB play this year. And usually it's not like that. You know what I mean? For the most part, usually your QB always performs, and it's
right.
Usually it comes down to your running back or wideout that didn't perform that cost you the weeks. it's just been a weird week.
Yeah,
Weird
I had,
year.
I play multiple fantasy football leagues. I've got a couple in ESPN, I got a couple in Yahoo, and then I got a couple on the Sleeper app. Those are the three that I go through. And, I won a couple of championships, no money leagues or anything, but it's still fun to play with your friends and other people that you know. And, so you do have a little bit of sense of pride when you feel smart, man, I picked that guy and he's doing great this year, and everything.
Exactly.
But I look forward to the fantasy season next year, and I look forward to doing these little podcasts with you, man. I appreciate you inviting me.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate you coming because I know Troy couldn't make it today, and I didn't want to do the whole show by myself. I'll probably finish up by myself, but hey, it comes with the territory. But I was like, man, who do I know can come on with me? And I know last minute would be fantastic, and I was like, David,
Well, listen, I sure appreciate it. I got to take off. I don't know if you're going to keep going or not, but
I'm going to go for a little bit longer. I'm not sure how long I'll stay on, but I'm going to talk a little bit longer.
Sure.
See what's going on.
You have a good one. Go
You too,
Kansas
buddy.
City Chiefs.
All right, buddy, and I'll shoot you a message, and we'll come up with the schedule, and we'll see what days work out for you, and we'll come up with something and keep the shows rolling.
All right, buddy. You take care. Thanks to everybody out there that was watching.
All right, buddy. Have a good one, David.
We'll see you.
All right, buddy. That was David. Great guy. For people Twitch, YouTube, Facebook right now, watching this, subscribe wherever one you're watching on. Do me a favor. Either like Go Forth and Go Sports or Twitch or the YouTube channel. Follow along. This is our first broadcast, and it turned out to be a pretty good day. I love talking to David. David's a real good fan. He's actually he really follows the deep parts of football, and that's why I love it. And he's good with pick'ems because I run a football group, 32 teams named NFL Renegades. Active all year. Go join it. It's real football talk. People talk, a little bit of smack here and there, but it's majority real conversations. None of this where you go to pages and people, get all crazy. None of that. But he's been doing pick'ems for the last 2 years for our groups, and we also do pick'ems for the group. And if you win, you get to choose the cover photo for the week throughout the season. And I would say David's probably top 5, if not top 3, almost every week with pick'ems, and he wins it quite a few times a year. He does his YouTube channel, so if you want to add him as a friend, follow his YouTube. He's really good with that, and I'm looking forward to having him on more. We're going to do a bunch of segments here on the Fourth and Goal broadcast, where we'll talk fantasy football, we'll talk FanDuel, the best bets, odds, and everything as well. A lot of big things coming. Obviously, this is the first broadcast, kicking everything off. So, we're going from here. We can only go up. And so if you know who I am, I've also ran a page called The Goat, where I make funny videos and trash talk and get people irritated at me. Because they're not too used to Lion fans actually talking or talking shit. So it's all good fun. I've been doing this for the last 5 years, I believe, and this has been my ultimate goal, was to start a broadcast, and it's finally happening. Like I said, it's first show. I'm just starting out, trying to get things growing here. So bear with me, come support me, support the stream. If you love football talk, make sure you follow on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Like I said, Fourth and Goal Sports or NFL Renegades will be live every time we do a show. It will be live and pinned to the top of the page. But I thank you guys for, for the people who did watch today. I really enjoyed it. Really good show. I am excited for the Super Bowl. I'm gonna go with the Fly Eagles Fly. We're gonna pull for the birds today. Let's see if they can get it done. I want to say I would love to see a blowout. I would love to see Philly blow them out, but I'm going to keep real football talk and educational here. I don't see that happening. I do believe the Chiefs are too good to be blown out, especially in the Super Bowl. Do I think they're too good to lose? No, but I don't see a blowout. I don't see a blowout for either team. And I hate to say this, if it was a blowout, probably could see the Chiefs winning it because, a lot of players are still with the Chiefs. This is the third Super Bowl. So they do have a lot of more experience than the Eagles in this game, on this stage, with everybody watching. So, you got to take that in a factor. But I'm probably going to end it here as well. I do thank you for everybody who's joined. And like I said, if you could do me a favor, please subscribe either on Fourth and Down Sports, Fourth and Goal Sports on Facebook, or YouTube or Twitch, whatever one you're watching on. I appreciate it so much. So until next time, peace out. Enjoy your Super Bowl, everybody. Don't drink and drive. Call a taxi if you're drinking tonight. Obviously enjoy the last game of the season. And the next episode, we will be kicking off the off season. So everybody have a good one. Later.